สวัสดีค่ะ Good morning ขอบคุณค่ะ Happy Halloween yesterday right Did you guys have enjoyed the party last night All right. So welcome to our second day, ladies and gentlemen. This is our 2023 AIM Summit that we're going to talk about fueling innovation excellence, the human factor. So first of all, let me introduce our aims to all of you. Aims come from Alliance of Innovations Managers Thailand. We are a national community platform in efforts to promote and support technology transfer and innovation management system through partnership. And this is a collaborative initiative from growing awareness across public and private sectors, dedicated to serving the needs of professional development and networking opportunities. So today is our greatest honor to have all the prominent speakers from around the world with us over here. They are going to share their experience, the best practices, very useful cases to all of us over here. And we are going to explore together how to drive the advancements of innovation management together. So let's start. Please join me in welcoming Professor Dr. Chatana Theptharanund, the Chairman of AIMS Committee, upon the stage. A big round of applause to welcome her, please.
Sawadika. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure today to witness the launch of Alliance of Innovation Managers, or AIMS as we call it, and to have the honor of welcoming you all to the AIMS Summit. Indeed, I would like to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about the inception of AIMS and the importance of it to Thailand. Now, we all know that Thailand has been stuck in the middle of income trap for 20 years. And we also know that to rise to a higher income, we need to transform to a knowledge-based economy. Actually, Thailand has already invested in human resource development in science and technology for over 60 years, but without reaping the benefit, the full benefit of the investment. What I mean is that we planted but did not harvest the fruit. That is, we provided thousands of scholarships to students, but on their return, there were no research jobs for them except in universities. Currently, Thailand has a population of about 70 million, with around 2 million in government civil service, which includes universities. That means that the biggest workforce is in the private sector. Therefore, if the private sector does not carry out or does not have access to research, technology, and innovation, then Thailand will not be able to catch up with the world. For this reason, universities need to manage their research and innovation to align with industry demand, and companies must manage their innovation to align with market demand. This will need innovation management on both sides, and the role of the innovation manager is therefore critical. For example, in the university, the innovation manager should sniff out research that has potential for utilization and help the researcher with patent application and commercialization. This involves identifying the technology readiness, technology evaluation, and market analysis. Appropriate action could mean several things, such as licensing as an exclusive or non-exclusive license, or spin out as a startup, or finding a joint venture partner, etc., etc. In the company, on the other hand, the innovation manager should oversee the creation, the development, and the implementation of new ideas, of products, services, processes, or business models within the company. For example, in an innovation project, he or she must consider the market for that product or service. Is the market large or small? Is it local or international? Is it going up or going down? And who are our competitors in the area? And can we compete? As for the technology involved, is it simple? Is it complicated? Is it state of the art? Then very important is how much investment is needed and will it be worthwhile? All such considerations mean that the innovation manager will have to screen and select, research and monitor the development, the prototyping, the testing, etc., to finally reach commercialization. Government should also create a system to effectively link demand and supply of research and innovation, to facilitate the flow and the transfer of knowledge, technology, and innovation between university and industry. In a way, this is similar to the role of the Association of Technology Managers, or AUTM, in the US, Autumn. Accordingly, the idea of the Alliance of Innovation Managers, or AIMS, was conceived with the objective to strengthen innovation manager professionals working in research institutions, in universities, in firms, and in governments. And it was announced in the Autumn Asia Conference in Thailand in 2016. It's now 2023. So it's now 7 years since then. Therefore, I'm delighted to see the launch of AIMS today. AIMS Summit is a milestone for Thailand in creating an understanding of the missing link in the process of research to market, or the missing link in the process of lab to market, and also a milestone in creating a community to bridge that gap. We look forward to growing an autumn-like community in Thailand and to creating an impact on the economy and society through science, technology, and innovation. I hope that the benefit of what people will learn from the summit today will stimulate more and more participation and enthusiasm in the profession of innovation managers. I'd like to take this opportunity, finally, to thank Thailand Science Research and Innovation, we call it TSRI, and the Office of National Higher Education Science Research and Innovation Policy Council, NXPO, as well as the Thai Business Incubators and Science Parks Association, Thai-BISPA, for their strong support of AIMS. But most of all, I'd like to thank all participants for joining us today. I wish you a meaningful and enjoyable summit, and I hope that you will make useful contacts and networks that will lead to fruitful collaborations in the future. I also hope that today will mark the beginning of a strong and successful movement for innovation managers in this part of the world. Thank you.
ขอบคุณ
สวัสดี
ค่ะ
ค่ะ
ขอบคุณนะคะ So thank you very much for sharing your insight about our AIMS initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our Professor Dr. Chattanat Theptaranont. She is the chairman of AIMS committee. And of course, I would like to say hi to those of you who are watching us online as well. This is our second day. And I would like to announce that right now, we officially start our AIM Summit 2023. So let's start our first topic. which is driving innovation management towards sustainability. So please join me in welcoming Associate Professor Dr. Pongpan Kaew-Tatip. He is the Vice President of Thailand Science Research and Innovation upon the stage. A big round of applause, please.
Good morning, Professor Chachana, Dr. Kittichai, the President of Thai-BISPA. Today we will talk about the national system of the National Science Research and Innovation System of Thailand, and also because TSRI is also have a role to draft a 5-year plan for National Science Research and Innovation strategy as well. So I will go for more details on that. And lastly, because today we are talking about the AIMS or Alliance of Innovation Managers in Thailand, so I will touch about the Biotic Act-like Thai law that we just adopted 2 years ago in Thailand, just about the concept of this law. So I will start with the National Science Research and Innovation System here and also introduce a little bit about TSRI. So here is the current National Science Research and Innovation System of Thailand. You can see here that at the top level, we have the policy level, and at the policy level, there is like a National Higher Education Science Research and Innovation Policy Council, which is chaired by the Prime Minister. And at the council, in the council, we have about 11 ministers as the council members. And here at the council, we have the core office of National Higher Education Science Research and Innovation Policy Councils, doing academic work to serve the council. So the council will make a policy and direction for both higher education, science, research, and innovation. And then when we have a policy and direction, TSRI is here. So our role is to make a 5-year plans of science, research, and innovation. And a part of the 5-year plan, we also have here the National Science Research and Innovation Fund. So according to the new law, I said new law, but it's about 4 years ago. So to give you more details, actually Thailand, we have reformed our research and innovation system 4 years ago. So we combine Ministry of Science and Technology together with higher education institutions to form a new minister called Minister of Higher Education, Science, Research, and Innovation. And under the new law, so it is here we have a fund that for all public agencies in Thailand, if they want to do the research and innovation, they have to submit the proposal to this fund or to TSRI. And we will look at that proposal and allocate them the money. In order that we have to set the alignment for all public money that's spending for research and innovation. And in budget allocations, so 60% of the budget will go to funding agencies here. So in Thailand now we have 9 funding agencies. 6 of them are under the Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Research, and Innovation. And another 3 are in different ministries. For example, we have ADA in the Ministry of Agriculture. We also have like the NVI and also the Health Research Innovation Institution under the Ministry of Public Health to provide funding in the medical sectors. And since I mentioned that 60% of the budget of Thai government will go through 9 funding agencies, and we call our funding agencies in Thailand as a Program Management Unit or PMU, because we assign them to be responsible to the plan or the program under the plan drafted by us. Another 40% of the budget will go to the operational level. Here we have about 100 universities and also another 80 research institutions and departments in several ministries which are doing research. And for TSRI, we have several roles determined by the law, but we can, grouping or categorize it as shown here. So number one, as I mentioned already, we have to draft the 5-year plan for science, research, and innovation. And next, we have to do the budget allocation to all public governments. And to give you more details here, so in Thailand, we're spending around 1.3% of the GDP for research and innovation, 1.3% to research and innovation. And for 1.3%, around 70% come from private sectors. So government sector invests only 30% of that number. So TSI, we have our responsibility only for the public money or government money. So in order to make this money, to be responsible to the taxpayer, we have to work with our funding agency and all university and also research institution. So we have the role to empower them, to make them to be more capable to deliver the output and outcome by after using our money. And we also have the role to promote the utilization of the research as well. And we also have the role to do the monitoring and evaluation. So for the budget, public money, the budget that we allocate, we can categorize into two main categories. For the first one, we call the research and innovation. And the second one is the budget for, here's my mistake, is the budget to develop the science and technology, infrastructures, and also capacity building. And for the research and innovation, as I mentioned already, that 60% will go to the funding agency. We call it strategic fund because it needs to align with our plan. And another 40% will go to the, we call fundamental fund. We provide this money to university. They can do like blue sky or bottom-up research or curiosity-based research here. And we also have another pocket we call research utilization. So this money will not support basic research, but we support innovation, how to bring research to the market, for example. So we have another money that started from this fiscal year. And here is the number, it's in Thai baht. It's the number allocated by TSRI because we just started from 2020 and this year is 2023 and now it's the budget we use for this year. And for next year, we just received the announcement that we're going to have about this number. And next, we go to the plan, our National Science Research and Innovation Plan here. So we have 4 main strategies in our plan. So the first one is about, we are focusing on the economic development here in our plan. So as mentioned by Professor Chachanat, that because, the big money of Thailand comes from private sectors. So we want to work with them to align our research with them. So we have around 6 funding agencies here to work with the private sector according to our first strategy. So for this one, we require matching fund from private sector to support research to develop our economy. And for second strategy, we will be focusing on the society and environmental development. And for the third strategy, so we will invest in the frontier research, also the infrastructure as well. And for the last strategy, it will be the capacity building program. And as our plan, so we're looking at for the next 5 years, our GAI or Global Innovation Index will reach 35 rank. Now we are about 44 rank. And for apart from the economic development, we also focusing on the SDG as well. So we hope that at the end of our plan or in the next 5 years, we will reach 35 rank for SDG index as well. And also the same, we are now ranked about 43 in the SDG index. And in our plan, actually, we have about 25 programs, but we try to identify our flagship issues and flagship agendas. So right now, we have 14 flagship issues. So you can see starting from, the vaccine development here. It's not only about the COVID vaccine, but we think that health security is very important, because we just experienced the pandemic of COVID-19. So we think that to develop the platform technology for vaccine production is very important. So we identify the vaccine development technology as one of our flagship issues. And we are also focusing on another 13 issues, as you can see here in this slide, including, for example, the electric vehicle here, and also in the societal dimension as well, for example, the aging society, and also some poverty and inequality that is very important in Thailand right now. And we have one main flagship agenda here that we are focusing on, the carbon neutrality, because it is announced by the Thai government that we will reach the goal of carbon neutrality in 2050. So according to the carbon neutrality plan, so we have two programs that is directly, three programs directly support this target. For example, we have like the program of circular economy, the renewable energy, as well as the biomaterial and biological chemistry. And we also have the program that support the natural resource and the solution to solve about the natural resource and environmental problems here. And we also have several programs, to indirectly support the carbon neutrality as well. For example, to promote electric vehicle, as well as the usage of electric vehicle here, and also the electric vehicle industry. And we also have the program to support the, for example here, to reduce the risk and impact from natural disaster that come from climate change. So this program will be operated by our funding agencies. We have we call the key results of each program to identify the focus of them. And here's the more details of the program under the 5-year plans of our country. I will not go to the detail, but you can see from my slide later. And to make you understand more that how can Thailand promote the sustainable development, especially the carbon neutrality, you can see here we have several programs to support the low carbon or carbon neutrality from energy and transport sector, industrial, the waste management, agriculture, as well as the forest here. And because we start our fund, TSI started from 2020, when we accumulate the budget that we invested in each category to promote the carbon neutrality. You can see here that we invest a lot in the energy and transport sector because it is very important to reduce the carbon in Thailand. And second will be about the industrial production, about the waste here, waste management, and also agriculture sector. And last one is about the forest. And here are the samples of the project that we supported. For example, we have several projects support the waste management, including the plastic waste management and also the community waste management as well. We also, because one of the biggest economic sector of Thailand is tourism. If we want to, earn revenue from tourism sector, we have to do it in the sustainable way as well. So we have the program to support the low carbon or green tourism. So there are some projects here that in this slide. And lastly, so I will touch about the Like Thai law, but that we just adopted 2 years ago. So according to this law, I think it is quite similar to other countries. So we will provide the ownership of the funding from government to the universities who receive the fundings. Here, I think it's the same concept as many countries, but in Thailand, when we pass this law at the parliament, so there's another concern that according to this law, how can the farmers, how can the people who is vulnerable can receive benefit from this law as well? So for the law of Thailand, we also talking about we have to promote the appropriate technology as well. Not only talking about the ownership of the research result, but we also talking how can we support the appropriate technology in order that farmers and the poor people can benefit from investment in research and innovation system of Thailand as well. So actually I think it's quite similar to other countries that we have the process to identify that how can university be the ownership from the research grant provided by government. So it is quite new in Thailand because, even we have setting up several programs to promote the innovation managers in Thailand, as mentioned by Professor Chachanat, that we hosted the Autumn Asia in 2016. But this year, we just have the kickoff of AIMS, or Alliance of Innovation Managers in our country. And I think in many universities, they don't have the system about how can they manage the property, the intellectual properties. We don't have like the system to manage the invention disclosure in Thailand. So what we are trying to do here in Thailand is we try to promote the, raise awareness of why Thailand needs innovation managers. And we have the program to support the career path of the people in this area. And we also working with the ministry to do the capacity building program of the innovation manager as well. Yeah, and we try to talk to many universities and also public institutions, as well as the private sector, that after we launching this law, so the innovation managers or tech transfer managers are very important. So this is I think for today that we talk about AIMS and the activities that we will collaborate with our ASEAN partners will be very important for Thailand because it is, the number is not only the number of tech transfer managers, but also the capacity building, the capacity of our people as well. So working with ASEAN communities, I think it is very important that we can promote our tech transfer manager to be better. Okay, thank you very much.
ขอบคุณค่ะเดี๋ยวขอเรียนเชิญอยู่ต่อด้านบนเวทีเพื่อรับของที่ระลึกนะคะ As we have the special gift for the Associate Professor Dr. Pongpan Kaeotatip too. So may I invite Professor Dr. Chachanat Theptharanund, Chairman of AIMS Committee, on the stage to present the special gift to him, please. Thank you very much for sharing your insight with us on driving innovation management towards sustainability. Thank you very much. ขอบพระคุณนะคะ Associate Professor Dr. พงษ์พันธ์แก้วตาทิพย์นะคะ The Vice President of TSRI or Thailand Science Research and Innovation ขอบคุณค่ะ And thank you once again for Dr. ชัชนาธนะคะ Next, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have keynote presentations on innovation arts or standard. Innovation transcends the boundaries of convention by Professor Neo Gokbeng, a distinguished expert in innovations and entrepreneurship, as he explores the dynamic interplay between artistry and standardizations in the world of innovation. Discover how the fusion of creative thinking and structured processes fuel breakthroughs and drives progress in the ever-evolving landscape of technology and entrepreneurship. Uncover the secret to harness the power of arts or standard innovation for sustainable success in today's competitive world. So please welcome Professor Neo Gokbeng, Director at the Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship's engineer, educator, and entrepreneur. A big round of applause, please.
Thank you very much. I think it's a very long introduction. It's not written by me. It's written by Charles, and Charles was asking me, okay, you have to speak this. I say, all right, I'll try my best. But innovation really, is it arts or is it standard? If it's arts, it's very difficult to teach. If it's standard, then it's a very process-driven system process. So we're going to explore this. Now, I used to teach in the National University of Singapore for the last 3 years. I've been invested in over 10 deep tech startups. And really, we have to systemize and standardize so that we can roll it out. Hopefully, I'm planning for 3 companies to go for NASDAQ listing IPO next year. And that's right, the reason that I'm now more a visiting professor than just pure teaching. Okay, so one of the projects that personally I love is because I'm a pilot. And I work with my friend who is a retiring NASA astronaut to design, we were the first flying car in Singapore. And our ideas, I think that's part of the art, right? Where you want to really look at the vision of getting everyone to fly. This is the craft that we designed based on the regulations that there's really no need for you to have pilot license like me. You can fly, she can fly. There's no age limit. This is under the US law. But then, when you build it, there are regulations, there are processes to follow and strict standards, whether it's aviation or medical devices, and we have to follow the standards. But then we can make it fun. So we have clubhouse that we just need a car park lot. It's actually one car park space. It was designed for one car park space, not helipad, and it can take off anytime. So it's good for lots of other stuff. So we just want to have fun. But seriously, this is a company that spin off in 2004 from UCLA that actually with the US VAI2 funding, we string that machine, the dialysis machine from 100 kilogram to 1 kilogram. And a lot of people is like saying, hey guys, how do you do that? Is it your vision? Actually, it doesn't start with that. It starts with arts. Understanding the customer needs, empathy. So we didn't start with 1 kilogram, we start with the vision that we allow a patient to move around anytime, anywhere, return what we call the value proposition of returning the life back to him. And what is best is something that can wear and move around. And then you use technology to solve the problems, you follow the systems and the regulations, and I brought it to phase 1 clinical trial, and as a good entrepreneur, I sell the company away. Okay, right. And for the last, I think from 2019, in NUS, we started up this great graduate research program, and we have see the needs to commercialize as much as the scientific discoveries of our PhDs and postdocs. So I designed the whole academic training program or the studio workshop for this. And these are my first 3 batches. And we target to produce 250 high-tech startups in 3 years. So again, there's a process of training to systemize. But how do you turn PhDs into entrepreneurs? A bit difficult, right? In the meantime, I also designed the same program with a little bit of focus for a smaller university called SUTD. So that's mostly my job. And one of the interesting topics that I work on, which is to commercialize what we call, by using breath analysis, when you breathe out a lung, you can actually sort of be able to detect whether this person has lung cancer. And so it's difficult to detect lung cancer at stage 1. Stage 3 or 4 is easy. But stage 1 and 2 is difficult, right? There's no symptoms or there's nothing that you can see. So, but if you breath with about the 3,000 over VOCs that you can detect and using artificial intelligence, you can actually be able to dynamically use it. But we started this clinical trial in the National University Hospital with good sensitivity, at least for a size of 80 patients. That's the phase 1. But then we hit into COVID. So what we do? Well, that's where arts comes in, right? You've got to find opportunity. Well, lung, COVID is also lung, and therefore we use it for detection of COVID. And actually in 6 months' time, of course, with government help on a clinical trial, we get it certified quickly, very fast, for detection of COVID. But then it's not just about that, right? It's about talking about infrastructure, that you deploy it out such that the economy doesn't shut down. And then the business model becomes important. All right. Well, I used to be a fellow at the Kennedy School, so we deals with science and technology, planned to for about a couple of years, but mostly involved in economic development at the Latin American countries and Africa. All right, and that's very interesting. That's where I have a lot of interest in science and technology plan, science park, incubator, and the like. Now, so recently I don't go to US that often, so I focus a little bit more on China, working with Tsinghua universities on innovation policies. Now, that's where my interest is. But moving on to corporate, whereas my commercialization efforts really, so we're looking at big companies and how they remain innovative. So 2021, you can look at 2022, is going to be the same. These companies are innovative. So the question is, how can we consistently, reliably come out with innovations? So these are arts, like some people say that, well, to be an innovator, you must wear black turtleneck shirt. Some people say you must get a little bit drunk, dance on tabletop. No, that's not innovation. That's getting drunk. But this is one thing. I mean, Steve Jobs came out with all paradigm shift, mind-boggling devices, right? The successor doesn't really. Initial few years he wear his turtleneck, but after that he gave up, right? Because he's a logistic guy, supply chain guy, but he still can continue to come out with innovations. So a lot of people predict that after Steve Jobs, there will be no more new innovation from Apple. Well, the share price continue to grow. We don't see a lot of paradigm shift. So yeah, is there something that we can learn from here? Or we can learn from another 2 guys who started off quite differently in the internet world, but somehow become competitors in the space world. So interesting, right? They have completely no knowledge of space, both of them. But both of them came in and built the space industry from the private sector point of view. So the question is, can we then systemize innovation? Is there a process? Is there a methodology? Whereas an entrepreneur, they will tell you there's no methodology. As a professor, we need to have a methodology, else it's our job. So we need to have. So the question is how to get companies continue to be innovative. And I think there's a couple of lessons that we can look at. I'm going to use big corporates example, but you can see these differences. So 3M, everybody knows 3M, the famous 15% rules, arts. Try to do discovery, creativity process, give them leeway. And then you have these rules, right? And one of the important rules is that besides the 15%, achieve 30% growth on new products. So you force, this is basically a human HR policy that actually forces change the behavior of the middle manager or the division manager to make sure the resources are given to the innovators or the creators in the company. Somebody came along from, GE, which is Jim McNamee. He took over, he tried to take over, become president of GE, take over Jetbox, and be successful. So the next best job is 3M. And the first thing he do is systemize the whole thing. So when you systemize the whole thing, what's the best way? What's the things that GE do? It's called Six Sigma. So you apply a Six Sigma to R&D, there's no R&D. Because every project has to be successful, right? And that's the problem. Do we define innovation as learning, or we define innovation as project? I think the corporate culture says it a lot. And then what happened is change innovation culture to very strict system stuff. And what you get is this. 3M was one of the top innovators and just disappeared. What you get from up to 2005, 2006, very good profitability. Profit just keep going up, and then suddenly no innovation, no new products, drop. And that is not innovative. And they hardly recover, but now they try to change it quite a little bit, but hardly recover to the top. So George Berkeley came in, and of course he changed it to R&D. Let's not try to do Six Sigma. So that is something that is interesting. But is innovation only limited to product development? And I think DBS case gives us a very interesting picture. So this is what happened in DBS in terms of customer satisfaction survey. Right at the bottom, 2009. And if you are this guy, who is the Pish Gupta, coming from Citibank, joined in November 2019, and you are like, okay, now you inherit bank that nobody likes. The customer is going to run away. So what you do? So what are the challenges, right? So can they become the world best bank? Can they become the best bank in Singapore? But interestingly, 2016 they become the world best digital bank. 2018 they become the world best bank and continuously become the world best bank. Not the biggest, but the world best. How innovative can you be? So innovation is not about the CEO. CEO is the evangelist. Innovation is about everybody in the organization. And we always think that innovation is always centered in on R&D. And this is also not true. There are many kinds of innovation. So if you look at DBS from the point of view of a castle, DBS is like a big empire, right, in Singapore. So there's a castle. And then there's this wall that's breaking down. So we call it digital infrastructure is breaking down because they're coming into the 21st century, the citizens are leaving, means customer satisfaction is really, really bad. And then the worst thing is you are preventing people from coming in, right? Which is the barbarians. Who are the barbarians? Well, in the financial world, it's called a fintech. They respect no law. They use blockchain like nobody business. See? But those in the castle are traditional. So how to turn all of them into innovative people? Not just the managers. So DBS actually thinks it through and came up with a concept is, okay, we'll make banking available anywhere, anytime. So that's what they do. Digital to the core, customer centricity, and innovation culture. So the first thing, of course, in the 21st century is we really have to be digital to the core. The question is, if you are so far away from somebody, how do you actually bring yourself up? And a lot of people actually think the management theory called benchmarking, right? Now, I beg to differ. Benchmarking is always good to bring you up to the nearer to the top three, but you can never beat them. Why? Because you benchmark against them. You move towards, they move up. So you're always never the number one. And therefore, what should you do? You should benchmark against the best in the world, not in your industry. And this is what DBS is trying to do, right? They came out with the name called Gandalf, Remember the Lord of the Ring? The best in search engine is Google. The best in online retailing is Amazon. The best in social media. And hopefully DBS say, I'm here. D. So, well, they carve a Gandalf initiative. But the whole idea is very simple, right? You benchmark against the best in the world, not in your industry. And that's how it goes. So they built the digital infrastructure and World Best Digital Bank in 2016. Now we talk about customer centricity. That's important. In tech industry, we also talk about empathy, design thinking. Can design thinking apply to everybody? And that's very interesting because Steve Jobs basically say it's not about technology, right? It's about customer experience. And if you want to look at customer experience, DBS adopt design thinking. There's 40 techniques, and they have a customer experience center. Well, the simplest way to solve a job of customer satisfaction is at a call center, and I ask one CEO, how many people employ? He said 10% of my workforce. I will solve the problem. Well, actually, that's not true because you need the people who know the customer to solve the customer problem. So actually, the whole bank is involved, and so they set up customer experience center, 7% only. What are they supposed to do? They train everybody, they facilitate everybody on the design thinking process, on the empathy, so that everybody becomes innovative, right? So I think that's important. And then after that, this is the customer journey, and you see the customer satisfaction. Remember, it was right below when the CEO took over and then they shut up. So you can use process and innovation method in different situations to solve different problems. Let's not be fixated. We must have a system, but we must be flexible in deciding what are the techniques that we should use. And that's the innovation culture. And we talk about the last problem, the fintechs attacking, the barbarians are going to kill you, what you do. So you need to transform yourself into an innovation culture. So they have an innovation center. But really, what is the best way to protect your castle? If a barbarian try to kill you, what would you do? Get the best barbarian to kill the rest of the barbarian. So, I mean, it's easy, right? That's the strategy. But how do you implement? How do you find the best barbarian? How do you find the best fintech? Well, it's called hackathon in the modern world. Then you get a hackathon. You identify 10. You incubate them. Then you find who is the best. And based on the best, you accelerate them. When you accelerate them, the market share grows. The rest of the barbarians die. Well, I mean, I'm just quoting it, but there's a methodology towards it, right? So you got to use like your incubator, your accelerator, or your hackathon in the right way, linking with your corporate strategies. All right, so DBS operates a cafe, okay? I'm not going to talk too much about it because I'm going to look at something that is more interesting. Can we standardize innovations? I think it's very difficult because everybody has different techniques. Every industry, regulated, non-regulated, fintech versus medical device. But so we have a lot of methodologies. Whether you just Agile, Scrum, whatever it is, I think there are a lot of methodology. You've got to be flexible for the industry. But can we manage it? I think we can. So can we standardize innovation management? I think that's possible from a corporate point of view. So therefore, an innovation management system becomes critical. And then I was searching for it. There are many techniques. There are big companies, whether you are Google, you have this thing, 3M, you have this thing, Apple, you have this thing, all very different. Obviously, there's the ISO 56000 system where really you talk about all sort of things inside that deals mainly with cultural leadership, and strategy, system, and process. That's about it. But if you have a system, then you can make sure that your people, your workers, employees, consistently and reliably comes out with innovation. And we are facilitating the systems as the innovation leaders or managers. I'm not going through all of this, but my Prime Minister said, and same as the design that is going says that RIE contributes significantly to the economy and the opportunities for jobs. I think that is really same as every country. We are looking for GDP growth, quality jobs. How do you do it? Yesterday, before 30th 30th October, this Monday, I was given the Skill Future Fellowship by our president. My job, what's my job? We believe that going forward, it's all about skills. It's not about academic degrees. Academic degrees provide you that basics for you to move onward. Beyond that is the skills. So we are into the skills for the next paradigm shift. And so my job is try to train as many people to have skills for the future. So how I intend to do it, right? So I see it as, okay, we can use it, the ISO 56000 as a base. And we started our first Chief Innovation Officer program at the Singapore Management University. We trained about 40, 50 CIO or CINO. And then what I'm working on now is how to certify the innovation managers. And I look at it from 3 angles. The first is that you must have the leader, so the Chief Innovation Officer. Not necessarily you hold the title, you can be the CEO, you can also be the Chief Innovation Officer, right? You are just setting up the policy with the strategy. And then you need to have the managers. What does the manager do? Provide resources, manage the portfolio, align the strategy for commercialization to the market. So you're managing. And the important thing is at the end, you need to have the practitioners. So you can apply really to all different sizes of companies. So if you apply to, let's say, DBS, the CEO is the innovation leader. He said, this is the goal where we want to go. The innovation managers are the department or the division managers. I give you resources. I give you time. I facilitate you. And the innovation practitioners are actually all the people whose relationship accounts manager, relationship managers, or the workers that deal directly with the customers. So it can be applied to a service industry. It can also apply to be really a product industry. It depends, right? So we are working on rolling this out in Singapore, and the first association is the Singapore Manufacturing Federation, where we have 5,000 members, so 5,000 manufacturers, 4,000 of them are SMEs, 1,000 are big corporations, and we see that, so we're targeting the SMEs because we believe that the SMEs really need to have innovations that are consistently and reliably churned out. Every year they have, whether it's incremental or it's disruptive. So most of the disruptions in innovations comes really from startup. SME is very difficult. So the question is, how do you manage it? All right. So this is a way to get the SMEs moving as far as our plan is concerned. Now, paradigm shift. During the COVID time, I was looking at what kind of methodology, my time in Harvard, my time in the universities, in Singapore universities and Asian universities, and how we can combine things together. And if you want to have a paradigm shift, what can we do? And the future, we are looking at smart city, sustainable cities, and urbanization. So I thought this technique that I developed will be very useful. Just imagine how to look into the future. Well, the future is dark. So we use something as simple as a torchlight to shine. So that gives us the path. What's the torchlight? The technology. What's the path? Where the technology goes. That's called the mega trends. And therefore show the path. That's technology forecasting, right? As far as the engineer is concerned. But what do you see? You see a spotlight. And everybody can see the spotlight because everybody can see the mega trends. But is the future that certain? No, right? The future is like this. So when the future has gray areas, what does it mean? It means there are a lot more possibilities than what you do. If everybody sees only the mega trends, then everybody is walking down to the same path, and everybody is your competitors. So how can we have a different path? So the way to have a different path is to use future thinking or strategic foresight as a methodology. That you look at probable, possible, and plausible scenarios, and then where do you want to go? Where's your preferred future? And this is what it means. Where do you want to go? Depends on the resources, depends on what you want it to happen, and you tweak the torchlight. Now, when you tweak the torchlight, what you're trying to do, the technology are now existing, but you tweak it to where you want to go. So different from other people who have mega trends 10 years down the road. And so when you do mega trends, you do technology forecasting. But when you look at the future, at the preferred area and bring it back, then you do technology backcasting. It's a different concept. You're building things for your own rather than follow the crowd. Okay? All right, so if the disruption in technologies, if the strategy of strategic foresight, you can apply it to smart cities. So there are lots of opportunities. If you focus, I think you can create lots of unicorns. Because if any implementation is in the city, you can timestamp. So you potentially have very large companies that you can develop. So I call it Imagineering. There's two parts of it. One is called imagination, where you design the future, where you identify the trends, design the preferred scenario, and build what we call the MVP. Quite traditional, except for scenario analysis. So you train people now in innovation managers, not just in insights, but foresights. And foresights by scenarios. And then how do you create the future? Now you do backcasting, develop the business model. But where do you start? Because you're going to do a paradigm shift, right? So the ecosystem will change. So you need to identify or build an ecosystem, and therefore you need to have a minimal viable ecosystem. So a minimal viable product is what the customer will buy. A minimal viable ecosystem is where the services will roll. But it's very difficult to do a complete ecosystem, right? So what is the stakeholders? So we need to train people in system thinking beyond design thinking, right? And this is where, if you can just imagine here, is eventually in Bangkok, you will have, maybe 5 years down the road, maybe faster, you have flying cars all over the cities, right? So it's possible, it's happening somewhere. And therefore, you can see that you can do a complete paradigm shift and identify new opportunities for yourself. And therefore, this is what I have done. I am an engineer, an educator, and an entrepreneur, and I look forward to hearing from you on these various techniques and also how arts and standard comes together. I think when we going forward, arts is pretty much for high-tech startup. You need science and put in. But where for SME to grow, you really need the standards. You need the systems, and that's the ISO 56000 with all the trainings for the people will therefore bring them consistently up the value change. All right, thank you very much.
ขอบคุณค่ะ Thank you. Please remain on the stage, as we would like to present a special gift to you too. And may I invite Professor Dr. Chachana Theptharanon, Chairman of AIMS Committee, on the stage once again to present the special gift to Professor Neo Kokpeng, the Director at the Institute for Innovations and Entrepreneurships, Engineer, Educator, and Entrepreneur. Thank you very much for sharing your insight with us about innovation arts or standard. Big round of applause for Professor Neo Kokpeng นะคะ Thank you ค่ะ ขอบคุณดร.ชัชนาธิ์ด้วยนะคะ Alright, we still have one more keynote presentation, which is on innovation management for sustainable competitive advantage, mindset, and skill set that we are going to discuss together. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we still have the innovation booths from all the really amazing organizations across the country. They are sharing their insights, their knowledge, their innovations, and their products outside of the room. So if you have free time during your lunch, so please feel free to enjoy exploring outside, okay? So now let's start with our keynote presentation on innovation management for sustainable competitive advantage, mindset and skill set. So please join me in welcoming Mr. David I, Head of Innovation at the London School of Economics and Political Science, or RTTP. On the stage, big round of applause, please.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and really great to be here. I still recall back in Chiang Mai, 2016, I was also attending Dr. Arakanok's organization for that first Autumn Asia in Thailand, and where this whole thing got started with AIMS. So very happy to be here. And my own personal journey has been a very long and not a straight line. Started out as an engineer in the Silicon Valley, and then got promoted through the ranks and became an executive at a large tech company. And then I did my own startups, several of them, and switched over to VC investments for 6 years on behalf of Hitachi, the large Japanese high-tech company. And then I moved over to the university side over the last 15, 16 years, roughly. I've been with different universities, first at Stanford University, where I also received my MBA degree in the early 90s. And then I moved on to manage the Technology Transfer Office at City University of Hong Kong, and then moved on to University of Hawaii. I was their Chief Innovation Officer. And in the last several years, I managed and started the Innovation Office at London School of Economics and Political Science. So very, very different roles. And meantime, I also finished law school and became a patent lawyer, although I never really practiced as a lawyer myself, but the qualification is there. So what I'm going to talk about is the mindset and skill set necessary for a new innovation and entrepreneurship culture. Why did I choose this particular topic? It's because very often people have major myths or mistakes when it comes to recognizing innovation and entrepreneurship. Everybody talks about innovation, entrepreneurship, especially I really, really felt there was something missing after I moved to London. Why? Because for the first time, I started working for a large university that is not based on technology. London School of Economics. Well, great. It's a wonderful school and has produced quite a few Nobel Prize winners. Zero in the technology area. So we're not known as a technology creator. And therefore, I constantly faced the question, what are you doing at LSE, at London School of Economics? You guys don't have technology. I could almost hear what they're not saying in that question. Are you wasting your time with a bunch of non-techies or low techies? Why do innovation at such a university? Why? So then I started really thinking about this because in the past I always worked I was in Silicon Valley practically as a techie. I grew up as a computer technologist. So I never got challenged with that question. But now it's really true. So the very first question is innovation and entrepreneurship for everyone? Well, it really should be for everyone, not just for STEM. Because when you look at a typical university campus, Well, just take even Stanford as an example. Only about 1/3 of Stanford researchers and students are involved in technology. Stanford is ranked #1 in psychology. Well, that happens to be my very first major. I have an undergrad degree in psychology. It's a wonderful, wonderful study. But if we keep talking about innovation and entrepreneurship as if they had nothing to do with non-tech people, we are going to really demoralize and make researchers feel that they don't belong in the modern society, in the discussion of next generation agenda in education or in research. When in fact, they have a lot to do with innovation. They have a lot to do with entrepreneurship. We'll talk about that. The next one is that it has to be technical in order for an innovation to be called innovation. If it's not technical, then it's a second class or almost irrelevant. You should not call that an innovation. And the third is that innovations are only for startups. Now this is very serious because if we look at any society, what is a percentage of startups in the larger sense society? Even in the US, it's a very small portion of the entire society. So when you say that, well, unless you are part of a startup, you have nothing to do with innovation and entrepreneurship. You are denying that 95% of the society from participating, from learning, from being able to apply the innovation and entrepreneurship to the society's improvements. The last one is that people always think about innovation as huge, big ideas. It's true that when we think of innovation, we think of great people, great minds like Steve Jobs, like Elon Musk. They have huge ideas. But remember, even their huge ideas often started with very, very small steps. In fact, we have to train ourselves to start thinking about very basic things, little steps, one little step at a time, in order for us eventually to come up with big ideas. You know that Steve Jobs, when he first started in Silicon Valley, I had a friend who worked in the early days of Apple. She was working on font design, so the computer fonts. And she was a Japanese major. So even this was in the early 1990s, Steve Jobs was very interested in how to make Asian fonts, Japanese fonts, look beautiful. Is that innovative? I don't know. I mean, it certainly is new. It certainly is a new way of looking at things and to improve things. And that should really count as a type of innovation. So let's examine those 4 different myths one at a time. First, it really should be for everyone. If we look at the huge problems the global environment, the global society is dealing with, we're dealing with a war. We have several wars going on. We're dealing with unemployment in every single society. Sorry about that misspelling. Crimes. We're dealing with inequality. Are these technological challenges? No. No, these are not. I'm sure that Dr. New would be very happy about this particular point. He went to Kennedy School of Public Management, where people are not really talking about applying technology to improve these things as a top priority. Public policies, they are really, really important. And should public policies embrace innovation and entrepreneurship? Of course. New ideas of improving the society, that should be everywhere. And therefore, I argue that the IE, or innovation and entrepreneurship, should require a new mindset and a skill set. And this is where you can think of the IE The small I is innovation. That is a what is the issue. So what is being created, what is being invented, that's the I in innovation. The big E, entrepreneurship, is how you are going to apply that kind of a new innovation to actually make a change happen. How do you really change the society with that? So one is what, one is how. Which one is more important? Well, I would say they're both very important. But if all you have is innovation and you have no idea how to apply, how to really make the innovation work in the society, then you're still stuck there. So you will be sort of an over-engineered mind, over-engineered brain, but with no body. So you cannot go anywhere. And therefore, I want people to remember it's a small I and a big E. So innovation is important, but entrepreneurship, which is the skill set, that is also very, very critical. And the next one is that innovation must be technical. And we already saw some of the examples. 3M is actually a very good example Dr. New presented. It has to be technical. That is a typical myth, okay? But sometimes, as Dr. New pointed out, the system, they brought in a new CEO who insisted in applying the Six Sigma to the innovation management process, which actually by itself is not that technical, the Six Sigma. It's a statistical method, okay? But that really would have a huge impact on how you manage the innovation process. I observed that out of Stanford, they had a lot of great technologies, of course, but they also have things like Netflix, PayPal. In fact, it's a long list of very famous companies that are not directly out of any kind of innovation in technology. And also, other than Stanford, you have examples like McDonald's, Airbnb, Uber, all of these, they're not about the technology. So, and ChatGPT, certainly, a lot of applications. For people to learn to use ChatGPT, do they need to have a PhD in aeronautics engineering? No. Everybody, you and me, we could all use ChatGPT. According to one particular study I just recently read, it's reported or estimated that for knowledge workers, ChatGPT or the related similar technologies can improve a worker's productivity by at least 40%. 40%. So if you think about the modern day of competitive environment, globally speaking, all the different countries, they're trying to get better than other economies by 1 percentage point, 2 percentage points. Here is a technology that would allow most of your white-collar workers advance their productivity by 40%. So the reality is right out there. Most of these white-collar workers, if you could train them to be very good users, not technologists, of ChatGPT, you can greatly enhance the productivity of your economy. And the key point is that many innovations are not tech inventions, and things like business model and process innovation. The reason I mentioned McDonald's is for a very simple reason. Recently, there was not even recently, in the last 10 years or so, there was a very good movie made about McDonald's, early history of McDonald's, how they started a franchise, how they actually innovated the fast food industry. I forgot the title of that movie. Anybody remember? Founder. The Founder, exactly. It was a very, very interesting movie to watch because you look at this guy who actually was fascinated by the poor performance of, at that time, some fast food restaurants, including his own chain, McDonald's. He was not happy with it. So he wanted to improve the process of fast food service. So he mapped out in a field pretty much like this size. He had, pretended different cook stations, service tables, and the front counter where people take orders. And he asked his employees to actually get to their station, and he watched, all right, start, from a front counter, receiving an order, calling out the order, and the kitchen staff would actually start assembling a hamburger and then hand to the delivery person and all of that. And he will actually try to observe the movement patterns. And then he finally got it through the repeated improvement process. He really got that design perfect. So he could redesign the internal layout, the flow, and how customers would feel about this kind of an operation. And that, it's not about technology. It's about process innovation, it's about business model innovation. But they basically created a fast food industry as we know it today. And the last 2 points are really what I want to talk about, because I recognize that Dr. Pampong mentioned that most of the funding is actually through the education ministry. And it is true, Thailand is a very young country. So the future of Thailand rests with the young people. And it's really, really important that we make them feel that they can be, I don't care what they study, but they can be part of this discussion, that they cannot be afraid of technology. I tell you that when I went to law school and we started talking to friends, different things, because I came from the tech industry. So I immediately would understand, oh, so you guys came to law school because you hated math, because you are afraid of technology. You don't think that you can be competitive enough to go into engineering or going to science, going to medical school, and therefore law school is kind of your last choice. And these are seriously a good number of my good friends and classmates in law school. They are afraid of technology. They don't like technology. What we need to do is make sure they won't become one of them. They don't need to become technologists, but they need to feel comfortable with technologies. They need to understand they can also be a part of the technology industry. And this very last one, find a role for themselves. So a lot of times people ask me, especially when I was in Hong Kong or even University of Hawaii, people ask, you're talking about entrepreneurship training from Stanford. Oh, that's wonderful. But did you know that most of our undergraduate college graduates, they won't be having their own startups. They will end up working for some large company, large bank, large insurance companies. They will end up working for the government, where you're teaching them entrepreneurship. You are really not doing them any favor, because when they go work for their big bank, big insurance company, or the government, they will become disappointed, because what you have taught them is just 180-degree different from the reality. So you should actually stop teaching entrepreneurship. So Let them get used to the disappointment of no innovation and no entrepreneurship in the reality of this world's employment market. Boy, I tell you, that was really depressing when I heard that. Because as we know, that all kinds of organizations, including big banks, insurance companies, and government, they really should embrace innovation and entrepreneurship. They need that. And also, my point is this is a myth. A lot of it, even young people going to startup boot camps, accelerators, incubators, every one of them would say that, I want to be the startup CEO. Every one of them. The reality is that most of them will not be a successful entrepreneurial CEO. They may be, however, a very successful participant in the startup environment. And it's really not true that everybody should become the CEO. It's also not true that everybody will be a natural fit to become a successful CEO. But this startup culture or the innovation and entrepreneurship environment has a lot of different roles for people to play. You don't have to be the CEO to be successful. So it is really important for young people to understand, to learn about themselves, to learn about how they can fit into the bigger picture and how they can actually be either the leader or the follower or be both. Okay? And then they can become as productive as they can be. Some of my best friends out of Silicon Valley, some of the most successful ones are not CEOs. I have a very successful friend who's worth, I don't know, I'm guessing about 400, 500 million US dollars these days. What did he do? He went from one startup to another in the early 1990s. He went through 3 different startups in a row. Finally, he went into a company that none of us had heard of. It was called eBay. And he was probably employee number, I don't know, less than 50 at the time. He said that, he told us, you have never heard of my company. It's a very small company. We actually sell junk. We sell junk online. So we are kind of an online flea market. And we all looked at him saying, we really feel sorry for you. And you know what? He retired several years later. He never was the CEO, okay? And that is one extreme example, perhaps. But if you can learn how you can become productive in this innovation entrepreneurship society, you can also be very, very successful and very productive for the society. So we already talked about the big organizations really should be embracing innovation entrepreneurship. IBM went through a major transformation in the early 1990s. Lou Gerstner came in as a new CEO. Do people know what his previous job was as CEO of Nabisco? Nabisco is a company well known for cookies. Yes. Nabisco is a very large cookie company. So here's a guy who knew how to produce and how to sell cookies. Came into IBM as a new CEO. And he really transformed the entire company. And he moved IBM from being a well-known hardware company, a very solid kind of building things that people could touch and feel, into a solution company, into a service company. So under his leadership in several years, IBM's overall service revenue actually overtook their product revenue. So IBM became a service-oriented company, and that was a very well-documented success. And Dr. New mentioned the concept. You remember his picture of a castle, and then was like a big insurance company or big bank, and there were barbarians outside the wall. So you worry about barbarians, but you want to be as successful as barbarians because they actually can take castle after castle after yours. So how can I become how can I introduce a barbarian culture? Well, Cisco figured that out. Cisco is a world's leader in network equipment. What do? They actually absorb new startup companies at a rate between 40 and 50 new acquisitions every year. Very, very busy acquiring new startup companies. Another amazing thing is that for many years, Cisco maintained a very, very unique practice. After acquiring one of the best startup companies, they will actually appoint that little company's CEO or CTO as a Cisco's corporate chief technology officer for 2 years. Until the next time, 2 years later, they will have acquired another very successful company. And then they will appoint that chief to be the corporate for the whole world, Cisco's new CTO. Using Dr. New's example, what is this practice like? It's like you see several tribes outside your wall, and you're saying, I think that one is really aggressive and successful. Let's talk to that tribe and try to make that chief of that tribe to be managing my castle. This is a systematic and very intentional DNA transformation process. You understand that you, as a large, slow-moving bureaucracy like Cisco, you cannot move very fast. And also, most of your people, the way of their thinking is already fixed. It's very difficult to change their mind. So what do? You go outside. You go look for such new DNAs in people that you don't even talk to normally. Okay? These are large, successful tech companies normally don't really engage in good conversations with small startups. So you force yourself through that process. And of course, nonprofit NGOs must become more competitive and more productive. And certainly within the government sector, I intentionally listed the population size. Singapore is 5.4 million people. And amazingly, Estonia, this little country on the Baltic Sea right next to Russia, between Russia and Finland, I've been to Estonia several times. 1.3 million population, a fraction of the size of Bangkok City, okay? And they are one of the most innovative governments in the world. Really, really amazing. I even have friends from the UK who have registered companies in Estonia without visiting Estonia. So they will offer people, anybody, you and I can actually register a new company tomorrow in Estonia, all online. And we will be holding an e-citizen certificate. So we will be recognized as an electronic citizen at Estonia. Really amazing country. So this last one is big ideas. People talk about, innovation ideas must be huge. And I said, that's really, really a bad idea. And in fact, my daughter, she asked me once, she said, Dad, you know that you always talk about one thing. The thing you always talk about is, I said, what? What do I always talk about? She said, you always go around, you ask, this is so stupid. Why? Because I see a lot of problems everywhere I go. I'm not very satisfied, or I'm not a very happy and passive consumer, because wherever I go, I see problems. Dr. New talked about the banks and DBA. I would love to be a customer of DBA because in my experience, I was really, really shocked that in Hong Kong and then in London, these are supposed to be the world leading cities in international finance. Their banking practices are horrible, just really, really, really bad. And I saw a lot of problems with them because they're not really customer focused enough. And this is a traditional problem within the banking sector. So the question is how you always want to be able to see the problem. If you don't even see the problem, how can you come up with new ideas to improve the situation? And therefore, the idea is that try to be annoyed and impatient. I understand these are not, very nice words, but you have to be always on the lookout for problems, not try to persuade yourself everything is fine, or not to persuade yourself, oh, I cannot change anything, so I might as well just sit back and shut up. At least go through the mental exercise. When I was a VC investor, we often say that, is this a founding team, are they hungry enough? Because if they're not hungry enough, they won't move fast enough. They will miss the kind of sense of urgency required for a successful startup to become successful. So you want to be almost like angry and hungry. You want to be not happy with the current situation and see the opportunity and push yourself to improve that opportunity because you are angry, you're not happy. You want to actually try to change the world in some ways. So start with small, everyday observations around you and learn how to adapt and change. Because guess what? Innovation and entrepreneurship is not just about improving your economy a little bit. It's actually about your survival as a professional, your survival as a society, as an economy, as a country. This is how important it is. It is about how to make change happen and how to systematically get more innovative and get more competitive. So my last slide. Now we switch from the mindset to the skill set. On the skill set part, this is very short because there are only two types of skills, hard skills and soft skills. Hard skills, these are the typical topics that what people would actually talk about in boot camp and accelerator, incubator program. They will teach you how to go from increasing your creativity to ideation, how to generate ideas, how to assess the market, and how to create unique positioning, and then how to actually have the early prototype and then use it to validate and ask your early customers, does this prototype make sense to you? Is this something that you would like to buy? How do I improve? So then move from that, you enhance your business plan and go through multiple cycles. And finally, it's good enough, you start recruiting or expanding your initial founding team, and then you test the prototype again, and then you go to raise money. Those are what I call hard skills, standard skills. But what really makes a successful entrepreneur stand out is probably not those, but this next category, the soft skills. Soft skills are so important but difficult to teach. This is where a young person can learn about themselves and learn about how they can work with other people. And more critically, learn how to lead, how to become effective leader, how to motivate other people, how to persuade your followers, how to persuade your investors, your sponsors, your development partners, your commercialization channel partners. Why do people trust you? Why would they follow you? How do you actually have that kind of skills, actually train and also practice and practice and practice? This part of the skill, I would compare that to learning how to ride bicycles, how to ride a bicycle. Yeah, you can keep reading about, people teaching you how to read a bicycle in some kind of books, but that's not how people learn. People get on the bicycle and then try, and then they fall, and then they get back onto that bicycle, and they try some more until, voila, I know how to bicycle all of a sudden. Because of this continuous and repetitive practice. And that's what we need to encourage our young people to do, to actually learn the innovation and entrepreneurial process through this kind of repetitive trial and error. And it's okay. They may not be the CEO of this successful startup, but they will find a role, a very satisfying role in this new emerging technology or non-technology, but nevertheless innovation and entrepreneurial society. So that's all my presentation today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And please remain on the stage. Next, may I invite Professor Dr. Chachana Theptharanon, the chairman of AIMS Committee, to present the special gift to Mr. David I, Head of Innovation at the London School of Economics and Political Science, RTTP. Thank you very much once again for sharing your insight with us about the mindset and skill set. Innovation management for sustainable competitive advantage. A big round of applause for Mr. David I, please. Thank you very much. ขอบคุณ Dr. ชัชนาธิ์ นะคะ All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we have lunch, we are going to have the full panel discussion on the topic of academic sector, innovation management, and technology transfer communities, landscape, and initiatives in ASEAN. An insightful journey through the vibrant landscape of innovation management and technology transfer in the ASEAN region. In this engaging panel discussion, our panelists representing Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Thailand will unravel the intricate tapestry of the academic sector and innovation ecosystem. They all will share their experience on the initiative driving progress and collaboration within ASEAN's dynamic innovation landscape. So before we're going to start, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you a little bit for any one of you who would like to join our group technical trip to Thailand Science Park today, and one of you in the afternoon, all right? So after we have lunch, let's see together at the registration desk outside the room at 12:50, okay, 12:50, because our bus will take off at around 1 o'clock, okay? Okay, so now I would like to start our panel discussion. Let me welcome the panelists upon the stage. Firstly, Assistant Professor Dr. Kasem Sak Uthaichana, the Deputy Director of Science and Technology Park and Director of Innovation Management Office from Chiang Mai University, Thailand. Big round of applause, please. And next, please welcome Dr. Joko Savono, Director at the Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship from Indonesia. Big round of applause, please. And next, please welcome Dr. Samsila Roslan, RTTP, President at Innovation and Technology Managers Association's Faculty of Education Studies from University Putra, Malaysia. Big round of applause, please. And may I invite Mr. Peter Tenido, Vice President of the Alliance of Tech Transfer of the Philippines, please. Big round of applause, please. And next, please welcome Dr. Richard Abandon, Chief of Party at International Usage Strike Program from Philippines, please. And please welcome the moderator of this section, Mr. Chalermpol Tuchinda, Autumn ASEAN Committee Chair and CEO of NASDA Holding Company Limited. A big round of applause, please.
Okay. Good morning. Yeah, thank you. Very nice to be here. I'd like to thank you all the panelists that make the time to come here and share with us. Following on to the soft skill from Dr. David mentioned, right? Knowing others. So we have panelists from different countries around the regions who are in the similar economy. You know, unfortunately, we don't have a Singapore here. So you know, you see, we can have. Yes. Oh, sorry, Dr. Neo. Right. So we have from Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand. That's how we. We discussed on how the landscape, understand where they are, what are the TT. So most of the panelists are from universities, also are the key leader of ecosystem builder. So each of them have their own area of driving the community. So I would like to probably start off with the first topic around the understanding landscape of each of the country. So that we can have a better picture of that. Let's start it from Philippines, right? Because Philippines have had the BIDO Act for the past few years. Perhaps that would be a good start from Peter.
Sure. I think I gave some slides that maybe I could. Oh, I went a bit too far there. Yeah. So in the Philippines, we have a Technology Transfer Act of 2009, which would be analogous to the TRIOP Act here in Thailand, and yes, with the BIDO Act in the US. The key provisions, when I was looking at the presentation earlier, do appear similar. So ownership of IP by research and development institutions, if that IP was generated from a government-funded project, will be owned by the RDI. And most RDIs are universities, but they can also be research institutions within government agencies, for example. But of course, if the RDI owns the IP, then it is their responsibility to manage it. And in fact, government has margin rights in situations where the university or the RDI fails to protect the IP or is unable to find ways to commercialize or use it. There is also a provision in the Act for a fairness opinion, which was controversial at the time because it required that when these RDIs entered licensing agreements, there would have to be some independent body that will give an opinion on whether the terms are fair. And there was a time when they felt that this slowed down licensing negotiations, although things have improved since then. The Act also mentions commercialization of IP by the researchers themselves. So that means the formation of spin-offs and startups and how to manage that. And of course, if RDIs are expected to form or to license technologies, commercialize them, then they also have to have tech transfer offices and of course, capacity building. There are other related innovation laws like the IP Code, the Innovation Act, the Innovative Startup Act, and a lot of initiatives as well, including the patent libraries of our IP office, which have been around since 2011, but also more recently, the establishment of tech transfer offices, tech business incubators, and more sophisticated, I would say, capacity building programs, as well as gap funding programs that now include things like funding prototype development, funding customer discovery for potential startups. So they're a team, not quite a startup yet, but maybe they could be. So we fund the activities that would help them find their markets, find their customers, develop their business models. And even gap funding programs that encourage university-industry collaboration, like industry company gives some of the money for the development of a solution to a problem, and then government provides part of the funding just to reduce the risk for the company. So this is sort of what it looks like at the moment. It certainly changed a lot since 2009 when the law was first passed. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, since we have Dr. Richards here on the stage from Philippines, and he has been driven a project from USAID on driving the ecosystems in tech transfer, maybe perhaps Dr. Richards can mention.
Yes, good morning, Sawadee-ka. So maybe to give an introduction, and that's not this is my first slide. There we go. So just to introduce what I represent. So I work for RTI International, a US-based company. And in the last 9-10 years, we were implementing a United States Agency for International Development project in the Philippines. It's a development work with higher education institutions to make innovation drive economic growth. It's a rather unique US aid project. It ran from 2013 to 2022, 9 years, $38 million, so about 1.2 billion baht over 9 years. And as I said, the goal was driving innovation to make, for economic growth. And at the start of the project in 2014, we actually did a study to do the innovation ecosystem map of the Philippines. And you see that little report card I have there on the right. You talk about human capital development, knowledge creation, tech transfer between universities and industries, enabling environment, poor grades, fair to poor grades, IP protection, fair grades, startups, very poor, and collaboration, a very telling score, the bottom row, very poor. And this is 10 years ago. And the project sort of started from that baseline. And the Philippines, for context, the Global Innovation Index, we were talking about it, I think for Thailand, you're aiming for a 30+ ranking. That's amazing. In 2014, I think the Philippines was like 90s, 99. A few years ago, it's now in the 50s, so it has improved. And hopefully, a lot of the efforts we've done the last 10 years have helped. And Peter mentioned all the policies that the Philippine government has enacted around innovation, the Startup Act, Tech Transfer Act. All there, I think the challenge has always been the implementation of all these policies. So what did the project do? Aside from doing scholarships and grants to universities to do research, and I have a picture there of one of our researchers in the southern part of the Philippines who was looking at creating foam from renewable materials or sustainable inputs. How do you convert a technologies that we funded as the project, also by the Philippine government, which has a larger investment in R&D? How do you translate that to innovation? The same things that we were discussing here this morning. And I know it's a big challenge for the project. What did we try to intervene? 10 years ago, the government invested in ITSOs. And this was really offices around intellectual property support. We brought in the innovation management component to the training, or the tech transfer component. And so I'll talk a bit about that in my next round. But it's all the training we've done here in the last 10 years. We actually flew 10 technology managers from the Philippines to go to the autumn conferences in the US. But it's really about connecting that university link or capacity to the external community. And it's really, I think, what your goal is. And you talked about, I think from our first speaker, how do we get industries involved, right? You just can't rely on the university component. We're trying to get that already in the Philippines. It's hard. I can't say we've already successfully achieved our goals here, but the Technology Transfer Office program that we started is one step. And maybe later I'll talk to you how this has evolved in the last 10 years of really bringing the hard skills that David talked about, and now hopefully the future, the soft skills. So I think I'll stop there as a way of introduction, and hopefully I can expound more on our other activities.
Okay, now from landscape from Philippines, let's go to Malaysia and how Malaysia is doing this area. Dr. Samsila.
Hi everyone. So I'm from the Innovation and Technology Managers Association Malaysia, or ITMA. We were set up in 2013. So that was by instruction by the Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia, because in 2000 we have been sending researchers to be trained at SRI International, Silicon Valley, and many other places on technology transfer. So we were asked to form this association so that we can help the ecosystem in Malaysia. So I do not want to repeat the regulations, issues, and so on and so forth. Most of the history is similar. In Malaysia, what drives us together is GII, Global Innovation Index. So if you can see here, in 2023, this year, our issue is that we have been focusing, I mean, that's good. We focus so much on innovation input. We put a lot of initiatives. So we've jumped up to 30th in innovation input. But our innovation output has really dropped to 46. So that means that there's something that we really need to do to address the translation of innovation input into innovation output. And representing ITMA, we believe that technology transfer professionals play a very important role. So if you can see the small dot there where Malaysia is below the line, okay? So in the ecosystem for Malaysia, SME forms 98% of businesses. And these 98% SMEs are very risk averse. They do not want to adopt technology, low technology adoption, because they believe that it's too expensive and it requires long period before they can be successful if they are successful. Therefore, researchers in the university start taking things into their own hand by forming startups and spin out. So we have universities in Malaysia, and we also have research institutions which are under different ministries. For example, Ministry of Health has their own research institution, the Ministry of Agriculture has their own. So they are called GRI, or Government Research Institutions in Malaysia. So GRI and universities, researchers have started forming spin-out startups. However, we are still struggling with several policies that seem to say that government officials are not supposed to be involved in businesses. So we are ironing out these policies now as we speak to ensure that there are no issues with the involvement of government servants in businesses. And we also have KPIs, so Malaysia is very KPI driven. So these KPIs, if not put in the right place, it can damage the commercialization of innovations. And lastly, there's a lot of issues with understanding what technology transfer professionals actually do. So with that, we are trying to ensure that the technology transfer professionals that are being trained can be retained so that they reach the maturity in their capability to properly and accurately conduct technology transfer. So that is something we are ironing out now, because without the proper position and career path, we keep losing these technology transfer professionals.
Thank you, Ms. Amsula. Okay, things you mentioned about GII is something that we try to drive into how we can get the tech transfer statistics on the GII we discussed with Whitehall. Now let's go to the Indonesia, Dr. Joko, because Indonesia might not have the associations in a sense, but let's see what you are planning to.
Okay, thank you, Charles. So I would like to talk about the models that the university in Indonesia facing the problem with innovation and intellectual properties. So there are some Indonesian as well attending this seminar that I think they have also different model to attack the problem, but I would like to share what we what we do in our university. So ITB is one of the Institute of Technology in Indonesia, one of the oldest university in Bandung. So we put the institution, we call it Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship to taking off as a hub, innovation hub between academic and business and industry, because we think that from the university side we have a technological product that has to be maturized to be connected to business and industry, so that we put the technology transfer offices inside the university institute. And the other side is we have graduates that will become potential entrepreneurship, so we need to educate them to be a new player in business industry before they join the real business industry outside the campus. So basically, our university make a institution as a hub between academics and businesses. The other thing is that we organize our institution in the university based on the technology readiness level of our technological product. When it is focusing on the basic research output, we put that in one particular institution. We call it Institute for Research and Community Services, LPPM. So it's focusing on the the output that came from basic research activities. Then when we talk about the technology readiness level that reach the level of 5 to 7, we organize it in our institution, including the technology transfer offices. But when this become more than the technology readiness level 7, that we need to create or to push it into the company that we create as a holding company. We call it Reka Cinta Inovasi (TP). I think that's the way we create the ecosystem for innovation, to interconnect it and coordinate it within the university. So depending on the channel of the activities and the output, what we need to achieve, Charles. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joko. Now, let's hear from back here home, Thailand, Dr. Kasem Sabs on. Since we have been having the Tri-Up Act for the past couple of years, see how is that impacting TT and...
Yeah, okay. So I think we have, okay, I have my work cut out because Dr. Pongpan mentioned for you about 6 important points in the Tri-Up Act in Thailand. So like if you look on the right, I can just highlight the major acts in Thailand related to what we're doing here. So some sort of the first Thai patent law, I mean, more or less in a plus or minus 5 years, you know. That was like when about I was born, like, you know, I was born in 78, so 79, and then 40 years something later, there's this new Tri-Up Act. But basically the landscape for Thailand is this. We, like the way we are, and we don't just have economic impact as a goal. We also need to have the social impact as another goal. Basically, we are looking at the Gini coefficient, right? The gap between the rich and the poor, basically. Like, we don't want it to be too high. So basically, economic impact and social impact. And then the Tri-Up Act basically focus, I mean, not just on the tech transfer for the commercial purpose only, but also for the research utilization, also for the social impact as well. So there are 2 aspects to this law. And basically, I talked to the expert and an expert in this Tri-Up Act law. Basically, there's a hidden clause at which some of you may or may not know that, well, the government has to have some mechanism in place to promote the technology transfer, basically, or utilization for the social impact as well. So there's some certain clause in that. So not everything is just about commercial purpose, but that's another goal that sort of highlight in that act. So when we talked about the landscape of this act, or the people here, when we are in the AM summit, right? So sometimes you work with a client, with a big corporate, right? You know, And then sometimes you have your researcher who want to use, basically transfer their technology to the, people in the village, to community, basically for free. But subsidized by the government, of course. But then, so the things are a bit different. I mean, it's a different, I like to think it as a road, like you have the order you produce on one side, let's say on the left side of the bank, and then you have your factories waiting on the right-hand side of the bank, and then we are the logistic company system to transfer all this produce from the left to the right by some certain means. So we don't use the same mean for the two things, but just to keep in mind that we have different segment of the producer or the output. So we might have something like 2 mechanisms for each one of them, and that would make us work easier in that sense. So that's where I want to start off.
Yes. So when you talk about the innovation, it's not only for the money.
I love. Don't get me wrong. I love money, but it's something that we also need to do for the social.
So money is more sustainability, right? For some for other purpose. Correct. Okay. So that's about where each country kind of landscape. For Thailand, we don't have to talk much because this morning Dr. Jit already mentioned a lot. So let's talk about the practical side. Maybe starting from the exams. A little bit on how does that change landscape of how you do tech transfer, licensing, and all that.
So that brings me to the next point. So we have similar and different practice in Thailand. So I just want to show you maybe a case from our science park in Chiang Mai in northern Thailand. So basically, if you look at this picture, in the slide, basically you have the journey to the top and the bottom, but it's not up in the same way. You mentioned you have the basic research, right? You have translational research, right? You have some mechanism in between, some sort of IP filing, analysis, landscape, roadmap, and then if it's some sort of promising, you scale up, right? You put more money into it, right? That's where the translational research fund coming in, right? You put money into it. And then, up to a certain point, the researchers usually they have to decide, like, do they want to license to companies or for the social return? You go to the top pathway, or you want more fun, you want to start up your own company. Then you will take the startup journey. Basically, I put that down in the south. And then you can see there's some stages that we need to check, like you do the licensing agreement, you do tech installation and all that, right? And also post-deal, the deal doesn't just end when you sign the agreement. You need to work with the company, troubleshooting problems, right? That's something that we know of. And then with the startup, you have to put them into incubation system, right? That's why we have a lot of the incubator in Thailand. And then now we have, like recently, we have this holding company structure for the university in Thailand. Has been around for quite a few. I know that a few of you try to push that holding company through the university council. It's not that easy. Weird, it's not that hard, but it's not that easy. But anyway, so this holding company is some sort of new phenomenon in Thailand. I would say, has been around for a bit. Our holding company has been around for about 5 years now. So this holding company, it's a company that allow you to convert, right, the IP usage of that IP into the equity. Basically, let's say like I want to start up my company, right? So I don't want to pay upfront. I have pretty low cash in my reserve of my company. So I don't want to just hand out the cash, right? So I can hand out the equity in the exchange of usage of that IP, right? If we go, like if we grow rich, we are rich together, right? So if we're not, then well, it doesn't hurt university. They have a lot of company or IP. So it's sort of a good way. And then the holding, I think it helped the researchers see that it's not that hard, to start a company to commercialize their research. So I think it helps the researcher in that sense that it's now, it's closer. It's like the other side, it used to look really far. Now the other side of the bank, it's not that far. The bridge, it's not that it's not that far away. So, and then our innovation manager can help, building that logistic bridge with the researcher. So I think it helps with the tech transfer in the sense that it allows researchers to feel, I guess, more comfortable in rolling out their technology into the market.
So you're seeing that the new law in Thailand in terms of the holding company and also the Tri-Up Act actually driving more technology transfer into the new style business.
In terms of the momentum, I think so. Yeah. So I think if it's become common, I guess that the researcher doesn't think that licensing the technology is something they can never do. I think it's more approachable now. Yeah.
So is that for the researcher to step out into the C-levels in the company, or kind of transferring and then coming back to the research and doing more research?
After that, it's kind of tricky. Like eventually, they could come back. Like you can sell off the company, right? And then you can coming back. But we'll see.
Okay. Now let's jump back to Philippines. Come across is here. Let's hear from Richards on how do you actually doing on the TT training program development from.
Yes. So I was alluding to it a while ago. On the left, you have sort of the training program we gave for technology transfer officers in the last 7-8 years, or 2014 to 2019. You see the typical hard topics that I think you heard David talk about a while ago, right? Business opportunities, mission planning, office management. Again, how to create the office, but also the services and hard skills. We've actually evolved it, and I'm lucky that Peter is here because the program we're talking about, like for business, for the holding companies, do we want to make the researcher an entrepreneur or not, right? Do they go back to research? That's a valid question, right? Not all researchers would like to become the managers. Or some of them are not going to be good managers, right? That's why they're in academia. But some researchers will be good entrepreneurs also. So what I'm saying is there is no one formula. But a formula we thought of was like to sort of give the biggest spectrum is that we'd actually create teams where a researcher would be tied to a technology transfer officer or an innovation manager. And then you also tie them with an entrepreneurial lead. It could be an MBA student or a business-inclined student in the university or even a faculty in the university. And then an industry mentor. And from that sort of startup, that research idea, that you build a team around the researcher, we actually funded this training. It's actually given funded by the government, the Philippine Department of Science and Technology, along with De La Salle University, Peters University, and with the George Washington University in the US. We ran this program to really, in a way, build a team, at the same time, expose our researchers to doing market research. They were actually forced to do interviews with the end users. And we were surprised with the outcomes of this team. And this is one team of I think we had 20 or 30 teams in probably the last 3 years of the project. And they were finding out things that you would think they would find out early on, but end users would say, this product, it's too unwieldy, or this is not, I would not buy this, you should probably talk to somebody else. These are things that we want the researchers to understand early on, and through this program, it's actually patterned after the US NSF I-Corps program. We're actually bringing this whole mindset change to professors and researchers. Again, we're not trying to convert or transform our researchers, and we're also not trying to even convert our tech transfer officers. This way is a good way to just expose them on doing market-driven research to really create sort of that empathy that was discussed a while ago, right? This is a way to get there. At the same time, it's a shortcut way because you don't have to transform a person. We can bring in this expertise around the team. And you can fail, it's fine. We've done the lean startup model from Stanford, just as a way to framework. But again, we're not trying to look for successes here. A measure here is not that you have to commercialize, is that you have just done the minimum number of interviews. That's the output. So it doesn't challenge you to have a commercial product already, which is, I think, a good way to understand, okay, my research is not there yet. Let me go back to the drawing board and do other research to make it more commercializable. Again, it takes away that pressure at the same time, giving them a team to be more successful in the future.
So what was the lesson learned from that?
I think the lesson learned was that for one, you don't want to force a transformation of a tech transfer officer or a researcher to become an entrepreneur. Sometimes it's just not there. That's okay. That's one. And in a way, this is the learning that Just bring in the expertise that you can build around it that's missing. That's okay, let's accept there are some gaps. And then go through that exercise of customer discovery. And I think that's a second learning. We don't do enough customer discovery. Everybody in universities, we have to accept that, right? We're in our universities, we're teaching most of the time, we're thinking about other priorities. You don't think about, you know, we have one researcher on, they're doing a fortified rice, but they weren't talking to the actual buyers of the rice, the housewives. So they were actually talking to the millers, the buyers. So there was that realization that you actually have to understand the market and who will be really buying your product. And that was one of the big learnings from our program.
Thank you. Now I'd like to turn to Peters. Can you tell us about ATOP, what it is and what does it do? And
Sure. ATOP is the Alliance of Tech Transfer Professionals of the Philippines. It is, I suppose, analogous to Autumn in the US and AIMS here in Thailand. So ATOP, I think, no, I could say that it emerged because of the trainings provided by STRIDE for knowledge and tech transfer offices. In fact, one of the very first meetings of ATOP, before it was even formally established, was held right after one of these training sessions. And what we were seeing was that because of the increasing need for tech transfer in universities, there were now more capacity building programs for people who could be trained in tech transfer skills, tech transfer mindset. And so we wanted to build this alliance, this organization, where we can bring those people together, share best practices, and even go further. You see some of our objectives there: be an independent voice to influence policy related to tech transfer, to deepen knowledge about tech transfer as a, as a business phenomenon, as a separate set of skills, just like any other profession, and also to measure tech transfer in the Philippines and its success. So some of the things that we've been doing, so we're now about 120 members. We started from a group of founders, 15 founders. We now have regular meetings once every 2 months. And one of the big things that we did first was to do a metrics report. We wanted to understand the state of tech transfer. So we did a survey, a relatively small survey, but one that we'll likely do within the next year. And the other thing that we're going to try and do is also to set up a certification program. So we wanted to, and that's going to require us to think about, what is a tech transfer professional? What does this person do? What should this person know how to do? What should this person know, in terms of knowledge? And setting a program where we can certify that, yes, this person knows how to do tech transfer, he can do tech transfer, you can turn to him for tech transfer concerns. And so that's ATOP, and that's some of the things that we've been doing. Yeah.
And from your hundreds members, are they all university or there are some industries in the mix?
Yeah, it's a mix, but most of the members are from universities. A few are from government, and a very small number are from industry. But we do hope to grow that part of membership, because there was a discussion earlier that the participation of industry, of the people who will use the technologies would be valued as well.
And I just want to add that to your question a while ago, what was the key learnings? That it's really the people. They were really enthusiastic to do it. We didn't actually suggest that they do it. They actually came up with the idea to come up with this group, this association. Then they asked for support. I think WIPO also has helped them. But I just want to point out, it was really the energy and the enthusiasm of the tech transfer community, right? And now we're trying to find the structure going forward, and I know you are doing it also. So we need to just keep that sort of that energy or fire alive.
And the ATOP members are pretty much membership are individuals or organizations?
Yeah, individual members. Organizational membership is something that we're thinking about. We understand that there are benefits to organizational membership, but right now we're really focused on, getting individuals, even if they move between organizations, to continue to have that network, to continue to have the opportunity for training, for professional development. So yep, at the moment it is for individuals.
That's great. Okay, let's hear Dr. Samsulaz on the ITMA from Malaysia, please.
Okay, so ITMA has been involved with many committees at the national level. So we work closely with the, of course, Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia, Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation Malaysia, Ministry of Economics. So from our experience, we are also being advised by the past presidents of Autumn under special project under WIPO. We also have assistance with the legal framework and the regulatory framework under a special project under British Council. So there are so many people excited about helping to make the whole ecosystem more smooth to push out innovations. So what we are trying to do now is to perfect it. So we have all these acts in place and they are supposed to push acts and policies to help push and ease out the commercialization of innovation. So as I've mentioned just now, we are still trying to iron out certain things, although there are some ambiguous terms in the University and College Acts. We have had researchers who have, several of them are almost unicorn, not yet, but almost unicorn in the business of the startups. We also, because of the low response from the SMEs, our Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation has this special program, the blue, red, yellow one. It's called My STI. It is a special policy to encourage the government officers to do local procurement or procurement of local technologies, you know, because there's a lot of procurement done by the government offices and ministries, so we are trying to push them to focus on locally developed technologies first. If I can look at the RDICE, we call it RDICE ecosystem. So ITMA, as the TTO, we are in the left square there, like grayish square or greenish. And then we have the University STP, Science Technology Park. That's the middle box there. That's overlapping a little bit with both boxes. And there's accelerators, the blue box at the right end. So these are how we work together in Malaysian ecosystem based on the TRL. So if you look at the TRL down there, so that's TRL 1 until TRL 9. And in universities, we have to still have fundamental R&D. That's our core business. We have PhD students, so we do have fundamental R&Ds, we have cutting edge research, so naturally we have a lot of TRL 1 and 2s. So the TTOs are supposed to bring the, and we call it flip the technology into businesses, bring them to a higher level where they can be, enter STPs. So the challenge is to get industry partnership. So I can say clearly that without industry involvement and feedback and input, there is no way we can flip the technology. Because we are in the universities, we do not know TRL2 innovations, which industry is the best, the most viable business, you know, quick wins and things like that. So, and the algorithm, so a lot of our innovations are so, you know, cutting edge that the researchers have to be in the national committees to set up regulations for those products to go to market. You know, so that's, so that is why we still have to have TTO there, and ITMA is there. We conduct training. We have 15 RTTPs up to date, and we are also working on a national standard to certify the TTPs. And we really hope that we can retain them so that they don't have to go around changing posts, because there's no special post for technology transfer professional yet in our government organizations. And the University Science and Technology Parks, we have several, and they are housing a lot of startups and spin-outs. Yes, we do customer discovery, we do a lot of market validation to understand what works. You know, everyone has ideas, but not all of these ideas will work. We have to look at the market readiness. And Meranti, I think some of you know very well, is part of ITMA as well. They are ITMA member. And they are taking out from the other side. So they are helping the industry to be more interested to take up. So there's a lot of funding in Malaysia from many agencies and many ministries, a lot of funding, but how do we make sure that, you know, things are coordinated? Again, I can say that we have done a lot on the university and the technology push side, but the industry, I think we are just starting to come up with efforts and initiatives, and we hope, you know, to get more of them, you know, taking up these technologies. Yeah.
Thank you. So ITMA is being kind of driven by the government. Is that correct?
So our DNA is as an NGO, but we were initially given seed fund by the Ministry of Higher Education. Why as an NGO? Because it's easier for us to go from one ministry to another. You know, so we are there, we sit on national committees. Some ministries, they are quite territorial, so it's easier with, you know, when we have that free and easy DNA sort of.
Yeah, same questions that I asked from ATOP. What is the membership kind of? Is that organizations or is it supported by government, university or individual?
So we have the membership from all the public universities in Malaysia, several private universities, and almost all the commercialization agencies like Meranti, MTDC, all those are part of ITMA members. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now, Dr. Joko, perhaps you can share on the commercialization scheme in Indonesia.
Okay, thank you, Charles. So I would like to go straight to the strategy of commercialization of innovative product of the university. So we adopt 4 schemes actually. The first one is